Hello everyone, Silencium here. Today we are diving into Little Nightmares 3, the newest chapter in Bandai Namco's unsettling fairy tale of tiny heroes and towering horrors. This entry was developed by Supermassive Games and published by Bandai Namco Entertainment. It launched on October 10th, 2025 on PC, PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One and Series XS, and Nintendo Switch, including the newer Switch 2. From the top, I want to lay out what this game is trying to be, where it absolutely sings, where it stumbles, and whether it earns a place next to the two beloved earlier titles. Little Nightmares 3 moves the series into online two-player territory. You play as Lo and Alone, two children drawn into a place called the Spiral. The Spiral is a chain of nightmare realms, a sun-blasted necropolis half buried in sand, a sticky and sinister candy factory full of warped confectionery, and a grotesque carnival called the Carnival. If you play solo, the other character is AI-controlled. If you have a partner online, you each take a child and try to keep one another alive while solving environmental puzzles, sneaking past monsters, and sprinting through meticulously staged chases. There is also a Friends Pass option that lets a friend join you online on the same platform even if only one of you owns the full game. Moment to moment, Little Nightmares 3 sticks to the series' DNA. You are still small, fragile, and forever one mistake away from becoming someone's snack. The camera frames you like a toy in a diorama, every corridor a little stage where something dreadful might shuffle into view. The locomotion remains intentionally a bit clumsy, which has always been a thematic choice in this series. You are not here to power fantasy your way through a gauntlet. You are here to feel tiny, to improvise, and to survive. Supermassive layers and a few new tools to vary the rhythm. Lo carries a small bow. Alone carries a wrench. These are not power weapons. Think of them as puzzle keys and momentary equalizers. The bow pings distant switches or distracts enemies. The wrench pries open snarled metal, breaks brittle obstacles, or buys you a panicked second when a puppet lunges from a shadowed stage. There is also an umbrella mechanic that lets you glide across wind tunnels and broken gaps. On paper, this is a nice spread of verbs. In practice, the tools are used sparingly and rarely mesh into complex multi-step solutions. Often, the answer is single purpose. Find the one thing the bow can toggle or the one hinge the wrench can snap. It keeps the pace brisk, but it means seasoned players will wish for more layered puzzle interplay. Structurally, the game flows across discrete realms which double as mood pieces and mechanical sandboxes. The necropolis leans into scale and exposure. It is all bleached stone, collapsing foundations, and a sun that seems more like an interrogation light than a star. You creep under rib-like arches and wave-carved walls while something enormous rummages just out of frame. The candy factory is a sticky fever dream of sugar and rot, with conveyor belts that feel like tongues and vats bubbling with syrup that has no business moving on its own. Then there is the Carnivale, a diseased carnival of wooden puppets, paper masks, and creaking midway machinery. The Carnivale is a highlight visually and mechanically. Its set pieces are clearly storyboarded with a director's eye. Platforms shudder into place just in time. Lights flare to sculpt silhouettes, and your path swings from rooftop to rope bridge in ways that feel dangerous and rehearsed at the same time. It is the kind of level that reminds you why this series endures. Where Little Nightmares 3 absolutely excels is art direction and sound. Supermassive understands that this world is not just grim. It is pretty in poisonous ways. Surfaces look touched by human hands and then abandoned. Props are oversized like a child's memory of a kitchen or a classroom. Creatures feel assembled from things that should not be alive. A spider torso welded to a security supervisor's body. A giant baby doll that moves with a sickly thunder. A mask that seems to inhale when you are not looking. Lighting is incredible. Thick beams that turn dust into fog. Slits of brightness like scalpels, and a creeping black that hides edges until they are inside your personal space. When it is too dark, it is by design. You are meant to find shapes by sound and motion, not by reading a mini-map. And that brings me to the music and sound design. The score for Little Nightmares 3 leans into music box timbres, creaking woodwinds, bowed metal, and a soft choir that never quite resolves. There are new motifs threaded through the spiral that feel like carousel waltzes recorded on a melted tape, then stretched until they fray. When you enter the carnival, the soundtrack winks at circus rhythms, then corrupts them with sour intervals and detuned organs. In the necropolis, the music pulls back, relying on rattling gusts, sand hiss, and low drones that carry just a hint of melody. Combat beats are hardly ever bombastic. Instead, a persistent pulse builds under your feet, as if the world has a heart and it is speeding up because you are in danger. The mix does a lot of storytelling for you. A string pluck 2 rooms away warns you about a guard puppet moving along a track. A gulping pipe cough tells you an escape vent is near. When the music blooms, it is almost always earned by a set piece that marries movement and light into a single breathless shot. So how does it feel under the fingers? This is where the game's identity rubs against modern expectations. Platforming remains imprecise by design. Perspective is 2.5D, and depth can be tricky. You will mistime a leap because your feet were a pixel closer to the camera than you thought. You will die during trial and error chases where the correct path is telegraphed late. Some of that friction is the nightmare tone. Some of it is just friction. When it is you and the AI partner in solo play, pacing hiccups happen. The companion occasionally stalls or feels a beat behind your intention. When it is you and a human partner online, the energy spikes, but there is no couch co-op. For a series that is such a good living room watch, the lack of local shared play is a real missed opportunity. The Friends Pass helps because only one of you needs the full game, but it is still online only and platform bound. Length and value are going to be talking points. The critical consensus has landed in the mixed to positive range, and the average playthrough for the main path is roughly 5 hours, give or take. That is in line with earlier entries, but the new co-op marketing sets an expectation that the mechanics will deepen across that runtime. They do, a little. The later chapters push light manipulation and environmental rewiring in fun ways. There is one sequence that riffs on shattered mirrors and reflections that felt clever and genuinely tense. Still, the toolbox never truly explodes. If you are coming for brain-breaking puzzle escalation, you will not find it. If you are here for moody vignettes and immaculate diorama cinema, you will be very happy. Let me talk specifically about the highs. The opening chapter sets the tone with almost no UI and no tutorials beyond "try not to die." It trusts you, and that trust pays off in immersion. The first time you and your partner manage a tight stealth crawl across a catwalk while a multi-armed overseer scans for you with jerky stop-motion head turns, it is pure Little Nightmares. The Carnivale is a stunner. A set piece where the two of you sneak across a puppet stage while an audience of unnaturally quiet figures sits frozen in their seats is going to be gift to death for good reason. The closing chapters, without spoiling anything, finally pull on the series' repeating obsessions with identity, duplication, and the way children turn objects into companion totems just to survive. It lands on a note that is more tender than I expected, then lets the image curdle for a beat before cutting to black. When this game is on, it is on. Now the lows. The co-op, which should be the evolution that defines this sequel, is inconsistent. Without local play, a lot of players will never experience the best version of it. Online, it can be wonderful, but several puzzle rooms devolve into one character does the thing while the other stands on a plate, and the novelty fades. Platforming deaths still feel a little unfair in chase scenes. The series' affection for trial and error set pieces returns with force, and if you fail on step 3 of 5, you are often restarting from step 1. Finally, while the monster roster is visually strong, only a couple of bosses are truly memorable in terms of what you do to outwit them. More sequences where the tools and the space talk to each other would have been welcome. Performance and polish are mostly solid on modern systems. Load transitions are often invisible, which helps the cinematic flow. PC performance has been reported as smooth on mid-range hardware, and the Switch versions hold up better than you might expect for something this deliberately lit and animated. There are still rough edges at launch. The darkness can push past mood into frustration if your display is not tuned. A few geometry catches and AI pathfinding hiccups have also been noted. None of that breaks the experience, but in a game that is so much about flow, every hitch is noticeable. Where do I land overall? Little Nightmares 3 feels like a careful handoff from Tarsiers' surreal toy box to Supermassive's cinematic horror toolkit. It preserves the series' haunted storybook look and the quiet cruelty of its world. It adds co-op that sometimes elevates the panic and sometimes flattens the puzzles. It gives you glimpses of evolution, especially in the later chapters and in the Carnival, but it is also conservative in mechanical ambition. If you loved the first two games for their atmosphere, staging, and wordless emotion, you will find a lot to love here. If you were hoping the third entry would reinvent the formula, you may walk away admiring the craft and wishing for deeper systems. Recommendation time. For fans of the series, this is a buy, especially if you have a partner to play online with and you value shared tension over mechanical complexity. For newcomers to diorama horror, this is a strong gateway, but I still think starting with Little Nightmares and Little Nightmares 2 sets you up to appreciate what this one keeps and what it changes. If you are specifically chasing deep puzzle design or tight platforming that respects every input, this might be a watch or a discount pick later. Before I wrap, a quick nod back to the music. The score and sound design are the glue. They turn rooms into threats before anything moves. They whisper when the picture is nearly black, or they ring a cheap calliope tune that makes your teeth hurt. Even when the game's systems underwhelm, the audio keeps the spell intact. That is the kind of craft that lingers after the credits and makes you want to replay chapters just to sit in those spaces again. Little Nightmares 3 is not the revelation some of us wanted. It is a beautifully mounted, frequently gripping return to a world that remains uniquely awful in the best possible way. It is a familiar dream, sometimes too familiar, but still a dream worth having. Thanks for watching. I'm Silentium. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit like, share the video with a friend, and subscribe to the channel for more atmospheric horror coverage and long-form reviews. See you in the next one.